One of the most famous product liability cases that's subject of debate is the McDonald's coffee case. Everyone knows coffee is hot. However, did people realize that if you get hot coffee that's hotter than the norm on you, the hazard is such that it can cause severe skin injuries? So it wasn't that the hazard wasn't apparent, it was the severity of the harm was not readily apparent. The fact is, McDonald's had hundreds of claims of very serious injuries and burns. And the allegation against it was that it didn't care about the safety of people using its product. You have to have a good design, but that's not going to prevent accidents from happening. Warnings and failure to warn is the battleground in product liability lawsuits. I don't think there's been a product liability suit that's been filed where there wasn't some aspect of warnings at issue. Exhibit 1 in a product's case should always be the safety brochures, the warning labels that accompanied the product. The company gives the user all of the information that the user needs to safely use the product. 1, what is a hazard? 2, what are the consequences of coming into contact with the hazard? And 3, how to avoid the hazard. The fact that someone has misused the product and caused harm then is not the fault of the company, because the company provided the information necessary to safely use the product. If the warnings and the labels are not adequate, if they're sloppily made, if they're poorly written, if they're grammatically incorrect, if they look like a legal document, it's going to be much more difficult for the company to win the court case. If it's well done, it's a huge step in resolving the case before it even gets to go to trial. The first place a manufacturer should look in trying to put out an effective and adequate warning is the ANSI Z535 standards.
ANSI, it stands for the American National Standards Institute. Now, ANSI Z535 is a committee within ANSI that standardizes safety signage. The overall purpose of the ANSI Z535 committee is to establish a national uniform system for hazard recognition. So people can see a sign, a label or tag, or a barricade tape and automatically understand that's something to do with safety. Without standardization, it would be all over the place. The ANSI Z535 committee is made up of between 40 and 45 people from all different walks of life. So you have the product manufacturers there, you've got the government bodies there, the Consumer Product Safety Commissions represented on the committee. We're using human factors research, we're using court opinions, and we're using the experience of the committee members in practically applying these standards out in the field.
The ANSI Z535 standard will carry weight in a court of law because it's been recognized as the standard that's required for manufacturers in designing warnings and instructions for their products. The jury will be able to assess the fact that the company was aware of ANSI Z535 standards and took steps to meet them. The attorney for the injured party will point to those standards and will argue that a company which fails to meet the ANSI Z535 standards has acted in a negligent, a careless, or potentially even reckless manner. If a company wants to successfully defend itself, it has to convey to a jury that it is a responsible company and a good corporate citizen. Juries are very receptive to arguments of responsibility, be it corporate responsibility and individual responsibility. Many times products are complicated, design has many different ramifications, it can be very complex. Failure to warn, however, is something that's simple and a jury can easily understand. If this person had this information, they would not have done what they did, which caused the accident. It's a very easy scenario for a jury to understand. By having an adequate warning system in place right from the beginning, you avoid all of the costs associated with litigation. You avoid all the harm that happens to the individuals involved in the manufacturing process. You prevent the second guessing of your product down the road and the damage to your corporate reputation.